With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
Ever witnessed someone so fast on track you doubt you could ever be on their level? The mission of Advanced Motorsports is to demonstrate the speed is achievable for everyone. With the expertise of some of the best sim drivers in North America, we are set to release free content on social media and comprehensive guides on our website. For those seeking the ultimate experience, our Advanced Motorsport Institute and personalized coaching sessions are the way to go. No matter your level of experience, we invite you to follow us on our social media to learn to be fast.
Well, this weekend, the eyes of the world were focused on the World Center of Racing, but now we make the trip slightly up north to America's Center of Racing. Tonight, at the Charlotte Roval, we're in for, well, something different, to say the very least. Welcome along to RaceSpotTV, the doubleheader of GT3 action, and to the Precision Racing League. Our Junior Kenki party joined not by Joey Tebb, and he decided to run away. Instead, Dylan Core jumps in to run us through all of the action. And Dylan, well, I think we both enjoy this track. I don't know if we're necessarily sure if we're going to enjoy what we're in for here tonight.
Hey man, I know you are thinking we're going to see a little bit of a wreck fest, but I got to tell you, the Charlotte Roval under the lights, I'd like to see NASCAR do this. I mean, I am a winning pit crew member at the Charlotte Roval in the NASCAR Cup Series race, so I might have a little bit of bias towards this track under any conditions.
What's turn one called though?
Okay, the heartburn turn.
Yeah, I rest my case.
All right, fair enough. You have a point.
Let's take a look at the schedule, though, because we're nearing the halfway mark, of course. The season reduced to 9 points-paying rounds, and, of course, the preseason race that builds these drivers into it. Next week, we flip past the halfway mark at Suzuka and then go for the back half of the season. But what a first half we've had. Aragon, Daytona, Hockenheim, and Charlotte for very different sort of tracks. And, you know, Charlotte may be a little bit more similar to Aragon, where we started things off. It's going to be tight. It's going to be chock-a-block up in terms of concertina effects if you're riding in packs, and overtaking Dylan probably going to be difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's not many passing areas at the Charlotte Roval. It's a lot about managing those tires and just the run as it goes on. Of course, we're probably not going to see any big tire wear in this race, but it can come out to bite you depending on the arc you take in the turns. You know, turn one obviously is the heartburn turn for a reason, but the one thing about this course, a lot of undulations. There's a lot of rise, a lot of fall. I don't think people realize that until they get behind one of these cars.
It is actually a bit unique in a Roval perspective from that sense. You are right, there is a bit more elevation change than you would see at, for example, the Daytona International Speedway, where these drivers have just come from. Here's a look at the points, though, for the GT3 Fixed Series, and of course it's in the name. Fixed setup competition. These drivers all have no ability to dial the car in, and as Riot Osborne so far has been the quickest to master his respective choice of car, the Audi R8. Behind him, a sea of Porsches, Venkataraju, Carollo, Thurman, Graf, and Hamilton, then the first of the Ferraris. Ultimately, still very early on in the season, 3 different drivers with 3 wins so far.
Yeah, and what's really surprising to me is that with Osborne in that Audi, we're not even seeing an Audi until 13th in the standings after first. So it's definitely a Porsche-centric top 5 in the standings. But hey, Osborne is kind of, going against the tide there.
Osborne also, by the way, runs by himself. Venkataraju and Corolla both fly the flag for Vulture Motorsports, and so therefore no surprise for them to be at the very top of the team championship. But it's only going, what is the margin? Never trust a commentator's math. 13 points back to SGE Esports and SRT Blue, 8 points further behind them. But 3 runaway teams at the front so far.
Yeah, try to say that 3 times fast, SGE and SRT, but it's a very close battle. 21 points separating the podium positions here in this GT3 fixed team standings. But, not really much of a battle all the way back from them, right? It feels like it's starting to show that runaway Vulture, SGE and SRT kind of battle. But hey, if it goes to the end of the season, I think we're all going to be very excited, very happy as we're nearing the past halfway mark of this season 1.
Yeah, Vulture Motorsports have been the most consistent in terms of grabbing top 5 finishes. The trend will hopefully continue for them as they try to build the advantage. Drivers on track for qualifying all at the same time. 40 GT3 cars jockeying for track position. That is a fun little story in and of itself. But before we talk about the times, let's thank all of those that make this possible, starting with Advanced Sim Racing. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminium profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount on ASR products using the Precision5 coupon code. Racebox offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, from the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, our button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit raceboxsimracing.com and get a 5% discount, also using the Precision5 coupon code. Butt Kicker products add incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Moradness is a performance lifestyle brand motivated by motorsport and founded by professional race car driver Daniel Morad. For more information, visit moradness.com. Mr. Hedge iRacing Photography. Capture your finest, proudest, or simply worst moments from your hobby in up to 8K resolution. A great addition to any sim room. And last but not least, Advanced Motorsports. Get ready to learn to be fast with Advanced Motorsports. Follow them on their socials to become a better driver today. And so we can take a look at those times as they begin to trickle on in. It's Ross Sortino provisionally on pole position. Great to see him back up top after what has been a difficult start to the season for him in his Seabell racing team Ferrari. But look at those margins through the rest of the field.
My goodness, that is not big at all. But you also have to remember this is a smaller track that we will be at in this season. So the margins are expected to be a little bit closer than you'd see at your local Spa-Francorchamps. But this is certainly going to be a battle of consistency. If they're able to put these lap times every single lap, you're going to see a lot of these corners a lot of the time.
Yeah, we're talking, lap times 1:16.494 for your leader. Slowest within around 2 seconds is Chet Miller down in 30 seconds, so most of these drivers aren't that far off. This is the slow chicane, the boring chicane, if we're being honest, Dylan. They used to have a lot more fun through there.
They did, and you can still have a little bit of fun, but most of the time it ends up with you in that tire barrier that's just kind of hanging on the exit of that chicane. It's hard to get right if you're trying to go for maximum speed. You can risk it, but you also risk putting that car directly out of the race. And
it seems appropriate for the region to say risk it for the biscuit here. So Sortino does not improve on that lap. So
Bojangles biscuit.
Oh, you are being specific with the type of, the brand of biscuit that you're going for. I have heard Bojangles is the best biscuit amongst the fast food places, though.
It is a solid biscuit. I have not had it in a long time. Trying to diet a little bit, but this conversation might make me change.
You're getting cravings. That's what I'm feeling right here. Let's see if we're going to see any drivers look to improve as we get towards what will be final attempts in the session for some, because once the clock strikes 0, you're allowed to finish the lap that you're on. That was Waldo Walden, who's down in 22nd, does not find any improvement of his own. Jared Deploy in the SRT Esports machine is behind one of his teammates as they're on towards Barney, the flagman. can. That's an awkward chicane at the best of times in a stock car. He jumps up into 21st position. So that's a big jump, but still 1 second behind pole.
Yeah, it's still 1 second behind pole, and goodness me, you see, look at Trickett going through that final chicane. It's not easy, right? We've seen some big problem areas form on this track, and with those turtles right there on the inside of the final corner, it's definitely a problematic areas. Jim Feliz, we'll see. In 5th, does he improve? It looks like a pretty fast lap for him.
That was a bit of sideways slip, but 4/10 quicker. That's a big jump, and it's to the top. Oh, goodness. Where's Jim Feliz on top? Oh, it's great to see.
Yeah, that is fantastic. I think he just clipped. Did he not clip that inside wall right there around turn 2? Oh, boy. Well, how
Moot
about
point now.
It's okay. Hey, he's right now provisional pole. Let's see if he holds it.
Problem is, clock's about to strike 0. Let's also not forget drivers in this fixed setup competition need to burn fuel off. Dale Peterson got to the line in time, so he will get another chance to improve, even though that lap wasn't faster. First to see the checkered will be the SRT 222 of Jared Keane, who finds about 3/10. That will jump him up into 4th, and now the pressure's on. This is where you really have to deliver in the qualifying sessions. A couple of cars off to pit lane.
Yeah, some cars just deciding not to risk it around that final chicane. We'll see some of them continue to kind of complete their laps. It's not a long lap here. Right now, the pole time is at 1:16.4, so relatively soon we'll see everyone come across as Trickett goes just 2/10 quicker there, but it's enough to break into that top 15 with a 14th provisional starting position.
Sortino as well as Ian Cabana don't improve. They come down to pit lane. Jay Steffi's the one that jumps up into 10th, and I wonder now who realistically has a chance to try and challenge. Felix Feliz is almost a quarter of a second off the pace, down in 18th, at least for the time being, but he's not going to, I think, run down to the pit lane. No, it's going to be onto the brakes just before you jink to the left into that final chicane. Rides the curbs to just try and minimize the distance, and no improvement there, and maybe an indication that pushed the tires a little bit too much, a little bit too early. Final car rolls down to pit lane with Dale Peterson choosing not to improve. That's qualifying done and dusted. Second time this season, Jim Feliz is on top.
Yeah, and we saw that end of his lap live. What a great lap from Jim Feliz. It's one of the bigger gaps we've seen throughout the entire field.
Yeah, 77 thousandths of a second. Remarkable to think that is amongst the bigger gaps in the field. At one point, drivers had set identical lap times down to the 100 thousandths of a second. Yes, beyond the significant digits that we even show on our timing screen. But this is why I think we expected qualifying to be important, because Dylan passing's going to be at a premium.
Yeah, passing is definitely going to be a premium here. You can try and force moves, but you know, these cars might not be as stable and as firm as a NASCAR Cup Series car is. You've got to be careful with the aerodynamics here. But does it matter too much at this track? I don't know.
I wonder what Joey Tebbin's probably thinking right now. He's missing all of this craziness.
Unbelievable.
And he loves a little bit of nutty stuff himself. Let's run you down trackside for today's starting grid. Again, 2 races on deck. This one, 35 minutes. And we are expecting, of course, a pit stop, albeit with fuel saving, probably being somewhat important. Jim Feliz has already won this season. It's the second time he's also on pole. Ross Sortino alongside. And great to see him being able to put some of the demons from the earlier part of the season behind. William Fence and Jared Keane behind them on the second row. Israel Osborne, points leader, is alongside Buck Hamilton, 5th and 6th positions, with 7th going the way of Rob Campbell, and the lunatic for sure, number 93, Jeff Carolla, defending champion, is alongside. Venkataraju Steffi, they're on the 5th row, rounding out the top 10, with Tyler Graf switching up the color scheme, alongside Andre Benatti and the fellow Porsche on the 6th row. Evan Mackay, Dale Peterson, Andrew Trickett, Jason Finch, and then Alex Wright and Felix Feliz make up the rest of the top 18 before you get to the edge of the top 20. Brett Thurman alongside Andrew Ellis, and about a second now officially away from pole position. Rodrigo Morales, Jared Deploy, and Sully Saad, Waldo Walden. They're in the heart of the pack down through the top 24, with Cabana, McKenzie, Rhines, Berquist, Jeffries, and DeWeese making up the rest of your top 30. Just a handful of cars still to run you down through. Travis Pruitt, Luke Davis, Jordan Walker, and then Chet Miller, Ryan Luna, and Neil Alexander before you get to the final 2 rows. David Morse, Nicholas Johnson, final cars with times on the board. Mulholland and Santana in the McLaren, with it all to do from the very back. That was a monster rundown of the grid as quickly as we could go, mainly because Oh, well, I thought we had a short formation lap. Instead, Dylan, we get the entire formation lap with us left to work.
Yeah, you know, that's okay, right? We get a really nice look at the Le Mans style start that the Charlotte Roval is
can
known
we make
for.
them actually run to the cars too?
Oh, yes, and then they just go green from there because we are back in the 19... What was the last year they stopped doing that? Ooh.
That's a good question, actually. When did they stop doing that? I was trying to think when they started doing that. Would have been 1890 or whatever. Back with the horse
trivia
cars.
question. For the YouTube channel on RaceSpotTV, we're watching, and we see you say that this track is pain, and Arjuna feels the same.
Yeah, Michael O'Brien joins us, of course. Teammates of Tyler Groff's in the Lionheart Racing Series. You can see the drivers try to figure out how to form up right now. A little bit of confusion, a little bit of consternation amongst some, but 2 by 2 they will begin to get. The joy, of course, of being here in the virtual world is that traditionally we get a look through some of the webcams of some of these drivers. I'm trying to get it all dialed up so we can take a look at those here today because, as ever, the Precision Racing League has come out in force. Here's a look at some of the drivers. Top of the screen, you see the defending champion, Jeff Carollo. Alongside him, Tyler Groff, who continues to go to the effort of trying to play a video alongside, just doesn't sync up quite with what's actually happening on his screens. Ian Cabana then is alongside Rob Jeffries, and Evan Mackay is alongside Kwok-Nin. You can ignore him, he's getting ready to go later on tonight. A bunch of different perspectives for us, though, here.
I'll tell you what, I've got some personal favorites throughout this bunch. Of course, we've got the right side where it looks like you're legitimately, the top right, you're legitimately in the car. Bottom left, you got Will Ferrell. That's awesome. That is really cool. But my favorite, my personal favorite is one I've never seen before. It's that middle left in the wide shot that we had. There's Will Ferrell. But getting to see the view from the virtual reality headset is really unique. When do you ever get to see this? You get the heart rate monitor, you get the actual view. This is so cool, and I've got to say, I've got some streaming ideas now.
Yeah, I'm going to have to say that plenty of the Precision Racing League drivers enjoy doing it, and so it's great to be able to see. This is the look from Jeff Carollo. What I was really trying to figure out now, there's no Charlotte above him, is he? He needs a new track map.
Yes, absolutely, and you know, if you don't want it, then just hand it over to me. I know, Arjuna, you wouldn't want one.
I'm not here, but I'd like some of those track maps. He's also got some celebratory items from that championship season. He will line up back on row number 4. Well, heartburn turn. Are we going to see chaos, Dylan, or are you feeling optimistic right now?
Well, I don't know if I'm excited to see the start go through just the chicane. You know, NASCAR recently started doing that in real life, but it used to just go kind of cut that final chicane on restarts. This is going to be interesting to see if there's any calamity trying to go too wide over the turtles.
We're already having a bit of contact there between the drivers on the front row. Jim Felice gives Ross Sortino the cold shoulder as the pace car is off and away. We're racing here at the Charlotte Roval, and already Ross Sortino around. What's been a terrible start to the season will continue, and the concertina sees drama behind as well. We don't even get into heartburn turn before they pile up into one another, and they're continuing to scramble into each other before they get through the corner. There's a look at, I think, Ian Cabana in that crikey racing machine.
I mean, I know you said it was going to be a calamity. Look at that. They're still wrecking going around turn 2. That was my fear. It was coming over the turtles, and they tried to go single file, and already, you know, we saw Sortino get loose under throttle, and that kind of started the whole chain reaction of cars just running into each other. I think it'll smooth out from this point on. But what a horrible start for a ton of the drivers in this field.
So who has lost out? Bernati, Mackay, Wright, Felice, and Jeffries. Those are the main losers, along, of course, with Ross Sortino in through the chicane towards the end of the opening lap. Already Felice about 1.2 seconds clear as they scramble off and away and back onto the banking. That will unload onto the brakes, right, then left to the checkered flag. And we'll see what the margin will be for your race leading number 5. Of course, there is race control. Don't forget, they will take a look at this smorgasbord of incidents on the start at the end of this race. Not going to make any difference here and now. Instead, drivers focus up on the task at hand. 1.1 seconds at the line between Felice and William Fenson.
You know, some of these drivers off that start immediately jumped a handful of positions. I mean, you go back to just outside the top 10 and you see 5 position gains, 7, 8, 9, even 11 positions gained if you go back to P19. So, hey, not a bad start for some, but obviously a ton of drivers just struggling off the start right there. We'll see if some of them, like Ross Sortino, can kind of recollect themselves. Mired back in 21st, so not the start he needed or wanted.
Yeah, I can tell you that Jordan Walker's had an issue down the back of the field on their own. So as we watch as Raya Osborne, the points leader on the back of Buck Hamilton, no positions gained so far for Osborne, but more importantly for him, no damage on his machine, as Sully Saad has instantly taken a trip back to pit lane. Means that something else has gone wrong through the field, and that's probably a good cue to begin the sequence of replays. Here is what happened to Sortino out of that final corner.
Yeah, and again, it's just coming under throttle, going on the throttle here, and under power. It's a little bit cold. These tires, you haven't been able to get any heat into them, and it's kind of what happens. No contact though, so we'll be all good. Here's what I was worried about, Arjuna. Coming through this turtle, you bounce over a little bit, and then it just unsettles the car.
So Andre Bernardi, Tyler Graf got a bit of a tag, and then as Bernardi ping-ponged across the track, oh, track blocker,
Big.
They tell you to hold your brakes, and well, they decided not to anywhere.
Yeah, but look how many positions you can gain.
Yeah, well, what do they call that in oval racing? Bit of arca brakes?
Yeah, that's exactly what they call it, and sometimes it works, sometimes, most of the time, it doesn't work. Also, it felt like the brakes, were they being held right there?
No, I'm almost 100% sure the answer is no. Alex Wright in the Lunatic Racing, his steering's done. No chance of nursing that car safely through. Then Dale Peterson took avoiding action. He now rejoins the track. I'm trying to figure out who all did not get involved in that from outside of the top 10.
I mean, only a few, right? Felice, Svensson, Keen. You're talking about the drivers outside of the top 10 who haven't been involved. Is that what you mean?
Yes, basically.
Okay. Yeah.
Now,
well,
let's go back to the replay for just a second, because I thought we were done, but we're not. Here's a look at a driver who checked up in the nick of time and then got turf from behind.
yeah, that is arca brakes. That is the definition of arca brakes when you're not paying attention to the checkups going on in front of you. Oh, is this live? And it looks like it's Jared Keane.
That's a dangerous place to be turned around, and now he's going to have to probably wait for the entirety of the field to spin through before he can get on the traction control off button and loop it around with a bunch of smoke. Already down 17 spots, and the pain continues.
Yeah, this is horrible. There's nowhere to go. I mean, good on him for being patient and, well, driving backwards on track. Oh, this is going to be Austin Powers-like. Dangerous. Oh! Yeah. Dangerous right there. And, I mean, I can't really fault anyone, right? Like, that's it's his responsibility to get back going again safely. And it really wasn't the safest at the end of the day, but it is also a horrible corner to try and get yourself turned around without getting damage.
The real problem was that there was a teammate, Jeff Carollo, maybe went deep through that chicane, by the way, and now might have a slowdown. He's lost already 10 seconds on this lap alone. Wow, what a crazy race it's proving to be. Top two breaking away as Jim Felice, William Benson, 7/10 between them, and then Buck Hamilton just continuing to absorb that pressure from Raya Osborne behind as we jump onto the car that sits in fourth position. Don't mind the blip on your timing screen. Rob Campbell on the left seems to be having a technical issue.
Not good at all for Rob Campbell, and we'll see if he's able to kind of pop back in. That's so many positions and so much time that's already been lost, and hey, maybe he gets back in. I just don't think so. That's unfortunate, but nonetheless, we see this battle for the final podium spot. Buck Hamilton and, of course, Osborne in that 7 machine. A really solid lap for Osborne in this earlier qualifying. 20 minutes was qualifying, so with the practice being as long as it was, almost 2 hours, and having qualifying, they should all be very active on this racetrack right now.
Yeah, but of course, coming off the iRacing 24 Hours of Daytona, who knows how many hours of practice they were focused on that versus actually coming over here and dialing themselves in for the action at Charlotte. Oh, that's what happened to Sully. So I drove himself straight into the wall, not once, but twice.
That must be a technical problem on the physical hardware side, is it not? It just looked like he just didn't.
I think he just went a little bit too deep. And to Jared Keane through turn 1. You talked about those sausage curbs. How did he not get hit?
That's impressive. And this is the worst feeling right here. Being turned around and not being able to get the car back, it's just unfortunate. He's so far so good. So I don't think he hit the wall there, but he definitely got unsettled and out of rhythm, which led to that turtle. And again, on throttle a little bit too hard. Great avoidance by everybody. Wonderful job.
And Jeff Corolla was the one that got onto the brakes the most aggressively, and I wondered then what happened to him, because I was wondering if there was maybe damage as a result of that. It's out onto the back straight away and looks fine initially. Porsche, on that second push, dings the left rear, into the wall, and I think may have actually done a little bit of damage to the wing itself.
Well, I still don't, I don't know. This track is not really dependent on aero, right? The two fastest corners of the racetrack, 3, 4, if you really want to get into it, that deep NASCAR corners, right, are all banked. So you're not requiring too much of aero dependency. You're still going to need a little bit, in the fast corners, but a lot of it here in the infield, it's all the mechanical grip coming into play. So how much does maybe a bent wing affect mechanical grip? I don't really think that much, Arjuna.
Yeah, you got to be careful though, because when you unsettle the aero flow, especially through that Audi, because it is so aero sensitive, you sometimes just need to be a little bit more mindful if the car gets unset from underneath you, and so hoping there are no such concerns there. I can also officially confirm that Rob Campbell's technical issue has seen him return to the field, albeit now a full lap down. 38 drivers started, 28 are left running on the lead lap, and I get the sense that we might actually get traffic sooner rather than later. Back towards the front, almost 10 minutes complete in this race. Remember, expecting a pit stop maybe no later than 8 or so minutes left to go in the race itself. If you're sitting behind, you're saving some fuel, you're maybe not so worried at this stage of the race.
Yeah, and if we're talking about when the drivers will come into the pits, remember, it's not really dependent on tires at all. They're not going to come in and try and, game the pit cycle by going in halfway, knowing that they have to make one more stop. There's no point to do that. You're just going to come in and get fuel. You're going to get as little fuel as you need to make the end of the race, because if you came in anywhere earlier, you're spending too much time in the pits. There is no gain.
Yeah, you're trying to, of course, minimize it, and that's why often the pit stop's forced by the limited fuel capacity that iRacing can help you enforce. We do see drivers sometimes wait to go as long as possible. It gives them a little bit more clarity on how many laps they're going to do. Counterpoint to that, of course, though, is if you're able to get some strategic advantage by coming in early on the cars in front of you, why not take advantage of that? Not sure if that's going to be the case up towards the front, but here comes a move for third. Buck Hamilton moves up high. It's Ryan Osborne, championship leader, down low and into a podium spot.
I always wonder about passes with GT cars, with prototypes on banked ovals. Obviously, we just had the iRacing 24 hours of Daytona. We're going to have a real world 24 hours of Daytona, which one of us might be at, and it's not me. I wonder who that would leave, but we'll talk about that in a bit. There was a move, and I believe the GT4 and the GSX, I guess you could say, in the LMP3 race at Daytona earlier this week. This is for the 24. I'm curious on your take on this, Arjuna, because I've got a driver-specific take here. There was a pass late, just did not cover the inside at all, coming around Daytona banking 3 and 4, and just ended up being a photo finish with.
Are you talking about the Ford winning?
I believe, was that what it was? I didn't know what position it was for, but I believe it was that.
Yeah, so the take here is that that driver was in a... that driver... I can't say what I was going to say. I'll get in trouble. That's how delirious I am after Daytona weekend.
If I speak, I am in big trouble.
Yeah.
I am in big trouble.
Let's just say that when you're the lead car out of the as it's now called, Le Mans chicane at Daytona, you're at a distinct disadvantage, and I can't remember the number of races I've commentated on where we've just seen drivers slip into that draft and just waltz to the win. It's also sometimes the battle to be second going on to that penultimate lap, which can be funny in and of itself. Now, it's interesting with GT4s in particular because they are actually low downforce cars, right, as compared to the GT3s that we have here. And so I always kind of wonder exactly how effective the draft is. And clearly, based on the Ford, either the draft was very strong or the Ford's got a lot of ponies in its engine.
So I was talking with, Josh Williams. For anyone who doesn't know me, I do public relations for College Racing. As we see a great battle right here. We've been watching this for 6. Just awesome. 4 cars under a blanket. But Josh, I asked him about that move. It's Daytona, right? Different racing, different cars, but, racers know racing. And one thing he was always told was to stay off the wall, especially, going down the straightaway. Try and stay off the wall as much as you can because it induces...
you side draft yourself.
Right.
Yes.
You basically put that air from the wall on the outside. It has nowhere to go because the wall's right there, and it kind of plants you down with your rear wing or your spoiler or whatever it is. So the closer you are to the wall.
Oh no! Carollo again, this time on the curb through the chicane. And, well, he loops it around without hitting the wall this time.
Oh, well, hey, it was a nice looking spinorama, and that's not the donuts he's wanted to do here. Have a little bit of a block and a move down below that white and blue line. We'll see if there's a pass here. Oh, this is sketchy.
Dale Peterson's got damage on the front, but squeaks his way on through, and that looked like a chance for Jared Deploy, who's already gained 9 positions in this race, to make it 10. Not going to force the issue by any means. Jeff Carollo's tires are going to be in agony right now, and I think that might be just a bit of an understatement to leave it at that. We will look at the replay in a few moments' time, but to your point, I think it's actually... It's correct at the end of the day. You want to be careful with how close to the wall you get. What we don't know, Dylan, is, especially with the BOP in place at that particular weekend, where each car made its speed. And so I'm just speculating. I'm not speaking from a place of knowledge or confidence, but maybe the driver in the lead thought that, it was better for him not to be too fast, to try and, hold on to the lead. That maybe there was a madness to the logic. I'm not saying there was. I'm just implying there maybe was. But yes, I just assumed that Ford, being a new car, had lots of ponies. I'm not talking about BOP. Never. No, never.
Yeah, I don't know. If you are in P1, coming to the line, full throttle, do what must be done to win.
That is a good point. Ultimately, that is the goal.
I mean, at the end of the day, if you have to throw the elbows a little bit, sure. Well, don't go over the line.
The reason I say that is because I was talking with some real drivers at Prodigy Week and their mindset when they go into races with BOP, because it's always really fascinated me in the real world what you do when someone's bought a car that then sometimes isn't allowed to go as fast as they think it can go. And basically they were saying, well, you can't come in with the expectation that if I have the 5th fastest car, then I'm going to win. And that applies in NASCAR, in IndyCar, in any series. There's even spec series, money talks. So if the expectation is for 5th and you finish 5th, then that's a great job. There's only ever one winner in motorsports in a series, right? So not everyone's going to win. If you finish first, you should be thrilled. You overperformed, the team over-delivered. Boy, you guys, you knocked it out the park. If you finish lower than 5th, then you have to wonder, okay, what did we do wrong? Because we should have been this fast compared to the others, but we weren't. So, I don't know. I feel like there should be a lot more in terms of mindset. I'm not sure what's happened towards the front, though, by the way, because William Fenson's taken over and about 1 second clear.
Goodness me, we like to talk, Arjuna, and we definitely missed something there. That is a distinct change in what happened between Fenson and Jim Feliz. Here's the replay, and you obviously see Feliz, jumping that turtle, that final chicane right there, totally gets him off rhythm, and he just kind of gives the spot up, but does it in a big way.
He needed to slow down without a shadow of a doubt.
That's
iRacing
right.
would have given him that slowdown penalty, and fortunately able to bleed it off without losing too much time. He's only 1.2 off the back of Fenton still, and so there is a chance, albeit now, I was mentioning traffic, they're having to work their way and slice and dice on forward. It's costing everyone a little bit of time. We mentioned Concertina's at the start, and right now Concertina up behind Jeff Carollo. Dale Peterson has dropped back behind the recovering 97. Damage on the front end. Jared Deploy, Rodrigo Morales, and Christopher Rhines, the cars behind.
Yeah, battle for 11th with drivers that have done a pretty solid job in this race of just moving up spots, especially of Deploy and Rodrigo Morales. I'll say this for sure. Morales, who himself is up 7 spots. Christopher Ryan's up 12 spots. I mean, they're definitely benefiting from the mistakes and the problems that others had in the beginning, and you saw that car slow on the apron. That's going in the pits there.
Now, it was also missing a considerable portion of the front end.
I did not see that. That would be an issue.
It was just a black void, and so Rodrigo Morales brings the number 17 machine in towards pit lane. Not ideal, and so he'll try and minimize the amount of damage that he has to now fix in pit lane as well. You can sometimes choose if they're optional repairs that you don't want to take at all. Sometimes they are forced on you, though, by iRacing as mandatory repairs. More traffic that they're dealing with. That is Alex Wright, who pulls to the side and very courteously points them on by in the middle part of the lap. But like we say, with drivers coming down on towards the pit lane, it surely means the window's starting to open up, and as more and more drivers encounter traffic, surely some will think it's time to come down pit lane.
I mean, again, only if it's for also tires, right? Like, maybe it makes sense to come in now, but you have to weigh what you said. 8 minutes to go is the longest they could probably stay out.
Probably.
So you gotta weigh how much time you're gonna lose with an extra, 6 laps worth of fuel needed to be put in that tank. It's a considerable question, but maybe one that, well, it's kind of like a, do you want to be stuck in traffic for the next 8 minutes before you make a move, or do you want to get out of that traffic, maybe lose a second here, but gain it all back very quickly?
Yeah, and in the case of someone like Carollo as well, the trip down pit lane gives him a chance to maybe reset his tire temperature slightly, which would not necessarily be the worst thing in the world. Let's do the jump through drivers' onboard cameras because it's always fun. Yeah, again, Tyler Graf, 10 out of 10 for effort, but the video behind him's during the day, and it's decidedly not day right now.
Yeah, it's not day at all, as you see with Graf's perspective. I'm not used to seeing any in-car cameras.
Oh, he crashed right there.
Oh, goodness me.
I mean,
look at that. He just reset.
Yes. We're going to have to try and get Tyler to loop this in perfectly, because if he can do that, I mean, we are going to set new bounds for creative expression in the world of sim racing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is just wonderful. Oh, he's flipping.
Again,
and watch this. I bet look at that. Just unbelievable. Is that the famed iRacing Super Speedway?
Might actually be,
not, it's of course iRacing Super Speedway and not, he's still spinning.
Let's go ahead, though, and continue that cycle through. Jeff Carollo, of course, trying to recover. He's into the top 10, albeit now with some work to do to try and work his way on forward. We'll keep an eye on where he goes from here. A couple of drivers have had some issues out on track. That seems to be a pretty constant refrain, though. Kevin Bergquist, he's parked on the pit straight and trying to get it spun around now.
And looks like he's going to get it back going straight, but, lots of laps down, and it's unfortunate. Goodness, there must have been a ton of damage he had to get fixed from earlier. Let's watch a replay. Side by side, jumps the turtles. Not really that much room there. There was room, but he was behind, and it was a bit brash.
And that was Alex Wright. So they're both laps down, and so neither actually fighting for position.
Well, naughty.
Arnaud Genet, head driver at the PRL, head driver steward indeed at the PRL, will take a look at that. Looked like Jay Steffi down to the lane, and so that's the first driver from inside of the top 10. Jared Deploy had already come down to the box for what was a 9.3 second stop, which was actually on the shorter side for what we're traditionally accustomed to seeing. They're more used to pit stop numbers around the 10-second bracket. Let's see what the 247 is going to do, though, as it rolls in towards the box. Now, of course, not going up on the jacks. That is not unexpected. Fuel, though, when does it start to roll away? 9 seconds becomes 10. 10.8 is the final count. So Jared Deploy 1.5 seconds quicker in terms of pit stop time.
Yeah, and that's awesome, right? That's really solid pit in, pit out, and total inbox time. Again, there's not going to be much variation except for how smoothly you get in the box. All these, look at that, little bit of damage on the rear right there, it looks like, but all these cars have pit limiters, so you're not really, oh, that was scary, too worried about your speed throughout pit road, pit lane, except for when you're actually slowing up and getting back going again. Of course, GT3 cars, they do have the aid of traction control and ABS and all that jazz, so it's not as difficult as if this was the, now I guess we have to say the old school GTE car. So it's, goodness me, still can't believe that that's, it's just gone, GTE.
Buck Hamilton, Jason Finch, Tyler Graf down to pit lane, and so now we're into that magic window. I said about 8 minutes to go. Right around on cue, it would seem then, for drivers to begin to come on in en masse. Hamilton departs the pit lane in front of Dale Peterson, and so he holds on to 7th, and now with that crucial gap to try and work. Tyler Graf, new colors for him, patchwork livery through the Porsche 911, comes out in front of Jay Steffi, so that pit stop strategy's worked for him, and see who else decides to come in. 2.3 seconds now at the front of the field, though. William Fenson beginning to run away.
Yeah, beginning to just, you know, gap that 2.3 second margin between he and Feliz. And it was all, you know, one mistake from Feliz under pressure that let William Fenson take over. But to Fenson's credit, he's been so sharp in this race. I believe he has the fastest lap time from what I'm seeing, a 16.685. So not only is he #1 on the time charts, but also, of course, leading this race by over 2 seconds.
More drivers down to the lane. Osborne, Venkataraju, Corolla, Walden. So we're at that magic number for some in terms of fuel. Crazy to think that Fenson and Feliz have been amongst the fastest while also saving the most fuel out on track. So the Coca-Cola Ferrari finished on the podium a week ago, going to cycle itself back around as here comes Buck Hamilton towards the line. Re-enters in front of Osborne. Venkataraju still yet to re-merge. Where is he going to fare out in comparison to the likes of, well, Tyler Graf, who's still yet to come into shot behind in the number 77 Porsche. So Graf now in 6th with all but the top 2 yet to come down pit lane. Things have shaken out just there a little bit on the pit stop strategy, and the likes of Corolla now have some work to do as he tries to mount his recovery forward.
Yeah, a lot of work to do, but Jeff Carollo has been doing a solid job, right? Kind of trying to regain his race and get back going again, you know. It's we'll see if that's the case. We'll get another look here. Is this live pictures? Indeed.
Yep, William Fenson, Jim Feliz down to pit lane. So there you see Fenson first into the box. Feliz slides through, and then in front of him into the lane. Interesting to note that the pit crew not looking very interested in doing any actual work.
They're
right
having
now.
a conversation, you know. I don't know
Yeah.
what that conversation is, but it was very animated, and that is also, you know, literally animated. But anyway.
And so as they come back out onto track, it's 2.4 seconds between Fenson and Feliz. I get the sense that that gap's done and dusted. Fenson going to start to build his advantage. Behind them, Buck Hamilton sits 3rd. Got Osborne still trying to close down what is 1.7 seconds. But I think as expected somewhat today, Dylan, this has not necessarily been a race where there's been a lot of passing on track. Instead, chaos at the start and then just trying to stay out of trouble after that.
Yeah, but, you know, it has been a race where there's been traffic, right? Traffic is still an issue. It's a big field. It's a small track. So there is still some negotiating left to do with this pretty much 2.5-mile road course, as, you know, that we see that gap between Fenson and Feliz, the 88 and the 5, continue to kind of hold at just over 2 seconds, 2.5 seconds, and it all came down to that one mistake going through the chicane while under pressure for Feliz. You know, things could change, right? We still have 8.5 minutes left. We still have, give or take, 7 laps remaining in this one. Time will tell if we see a perfect rest of race drive for William Fenson. I mean, hey, 2.3 seconds is 2 seconds, under 2 seconds. It's going to keep fluctuating.
Yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at a replay then, because like we said, plenty of chaos and has been continuing. Nick McLaughlin was asking where the lunatic drivers have been hiding. Well, one of them now hiding in pit lane, I do believe, as Luke Davis just overcommits through the entry into the final sector of the infield and pancakes the left side hard into the wall.
Yeah, and he just barely got those left sides off of that red and white painted area onto the grass. Once he got those lefts onto the grass, it was all race over for him.
So, 8 minutes to go. Pit stop cycle done and dusted. Fenson, Feliz, Hamilton, Osborne, Venkataraju, your top 5, with Graf, Steffi, Corolla, Walden, and Peterson rounding out the rest of the running order. We had 38 starters, left with 32 running, 20 on the lead lap, and with traffic directly in front of your race leader. At least a handful of those drivers not likely to remain on the leading lap. If this is any indication with which to go by, I hope that the drivers in the GT3 Sprint Series, Dylan, have been watching and, well, maybe worked on their setups a little bit.
Maybe not worked on their setups as much as just practice cold tires on a race start through the chicane, maybe, hopefully.
Well, I'm trying to think what magic setup clicks you could do that would make your car stay on the road.
Man, don't look at me. I might have mechanics gloves sitting right next to me, but it was only a catch of tires.
No, I think this is where the top drivers make their money, right? Is knowing how to make the cars just that little bit more comfortable, a little bit more pliant to what each driver wants to do, and ultimately that's where they make their mark. Through the field, Jeff Corolla still trying to work back past. He's now in 8th position, where he qualified. Crazy to say that as well, given not 1 but 2 spins through the chicane on the back straightaway. He's got Jay Steffi in front of him, just down the road. He'll jump on board, riding over the shoulder from both perspectives.
Yeah, and this is an interesting look, an interesting view. I almost feel like that mirror on the left side, driver's side, on the his actual perspective on the bottom right side of the screen. It's almost bigger than what you'd expect a mirror to be, but he's working it through, doing a solid job, and still chasing after Steffi. I mean, potentially could 6th be on the offers? I don't think so, but there's a 2.5 second gap.
I don't know if Tyler Graf's going to be so willing to let him by.
I don't think he will, but
He's first got to get past Jay Steffi, to be fair.
that's true. Catching and passing are 2 different things.
Yeah, and I think one thing that you're kind of hoping for is often just show yourself in the mirror, try and pressure the driver in front of you into making a small mistake, because all it can take is one moment and suddenly you're back in contention. Talking of moments, that's what Buck Hamilton's just had. Runs off the road, down onto the run in the infield, the short infield straight that you have, onto the grass. Osborne now within 1.3 seconds.
Probably the best place to have a bit of an off, because as long as you're not flying through that right-handed sweeping curve, you can kind of recollect the car. You're going to lose some seconds by slowing down, but hey, it's all good as we see a pass on track. 2 cars going side by side. Porsche's going wild right there.
Yeah, that's a nice little wave by for Jay Steffi, recognizing it wasn't worth the hassle of trying to force any sort of drama. And now, as you just watch them also shortcut the paved, painted part of the track as they rejoin onto the banking. Interesting just to see the lines being taken as drivers elect to try and just grab a little bit of a distance advantage. More chaos unfolding, by the way. When it rains, it pours through the right-hander. Here comes Christopher Rines in the SRT 111, and it's onto the banking where, Ross Sortino's crashed in front of him, and no time to check up.
That was a massive incident with a lot of debris coming off of both of those GT3 machines. We'll take another look. Again, look at at the undulations here. You go down the hill, up it, and then into the wall. Car's unsettled. Big hit into the tire barrier. Nowhere to go. Unfortunate end to both drivers' races, it appears.
Yep, and a couple more drivers to add to the casualty list that has really taken a life on of its own. William Fenson now leads by 3.5 seconds. He'll wrap to the line, see the flag man sitting there and waiting for him to see the white flag. It won't be this time by. It might not even be next time by. Another driver around, Jared Deploy, this time in the 22 for SRT Esports.
Man, it's all of a sudden the end of this race, and drivers are starting to struggle a bit. Here's the replay of that incident. Like a bit of a slide. Yeah, big hit. Goodness, I think he would have maybe saved that, or at least gotten into a controlled slide if that wall wasn't right there. But hey, the racetrack ends where the wall begins and ends.
Yeah, he needed just a little bit more leeway there from the circuit designers. Unfortunately, it was not given at the time of construction. You know, racing nighttime conditions, let's not forget, so relatively cool track temperatures you have to assume, and therefore are pretty knife-edge conditions for the drivers to be dealing with. So here comes Fenson out of the chicane. It will be the penultimate lap this time by when he sees the stripe, because our lap times, of course, around 1:17s, at least for the time being. Jared Deploy's called it quits. I think that damage was terminal. Meanwhile, fight for third. Sixth, excuse me. 3-car fight for sixth as well, as Tyler Graf has got Jeff Carollo now behind. And this is what we were wondering about. How aggressive was Carollo going to be in trying to work forward? How aggressive would Tyler Graf be in defending?
Yeah, it's gotten quite close, hasn't it? We were talking about not being so easy to let the position go, but with 2 minutes left, there's now this competition is here, right? Jeff Carollo is caught up and potentially going to be able to make a move coming into this final chicane. It is interesting. You see that left side. It's not really grass. It's kind of painted on. So it gives the illusion of drivers losing traction with dipping their left sides into the grass. But hey, that's just paint.
Circuit designers have to make sure they account for all sorts of cars, and also for club and professional racing as well. Different disciplines, which of course have different requirements and different budgets to pay for things. There's the double look, by the way. Tyler Graf, who I'm sure is about to flip once again if you watch behind him in the zoom onboard camera, and then Jeff Carollo, who you peek over the shoulder of. One more lap to try and get things through. I think Carollo needs a monster of a launch out of this corner, where Tyler Graf's just a little bit earlier on the turn and costs him just a little bit of ground.
Yeah, you can't be too early throughout that corner, but you also can't be too patient either. It's hard to get it right, and in the slipstream, we'll see if Carollo is able to go down the inside, too far back to make a move. Going into the chicane, though, gonna have one more try, I think, to get it done.
And if he wasn't close enough this time by, I'm not really sure what more he can hope to do coming towards the final lap of this race. We'll keep an eye on them, though. They will see the white flag this time by, and Carollo has one more chance to try and make a somewhat of a recovery drive on forward. Has to be careful. Jay Steffi lurks behind and lurks menacingly. 4 seconds clear at the front, though. I mean, William Fenson got by after Jim Feliz made a bit of a mistake with the pressure put on by the car behind. Now just has got to survive that chicane to go to his very first time into victory lane in the Precision Racing League.
Yeah, this is an unbelievable race, and just a few more kind of simple corners at this point. No pressure behind to negotiate. Well done from Fenson. Has not put a single foot wrong in this race.
And I think actually took it very, very easy through that chicane, not wanting there to be any sort of risk. Will he wind it down through the final corner? 27 laps complete. It was heartburn turn for those behind, but no such dramas for Fenson. For the first time, he wins in the Precision Racing League, coming out on top at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Plenty of other drivers, though, still with their battles to the line. We jump back to 6th and 7th. Tyler Graf holds on for now. Carollo's going to try and set things up, but for a third time in this race, Dylan, he gets unsettled over the chicane.
Yeah, got very unsettled. That's going to close the door on a battle with Graf for P6. And Steffi, I don't think that Jay Steffi is going to be able to just send it in there at the final chicane. But all these drivers coming across the line for the final time. And look at this, side by side. Almost got him there.
Almost gave us a dramatic end. Ended up being about 20 0.06 of a second between the two of them. Here come the final drivers that we'll see run to the line. Because of how this race played out with so many drivers going a lap down, only 15 drivers going to be scored on the leading lap. And well, if this was chaos, we're off to Suzuka a week from today, which will hopefully be just a little bit less chaotic for the various contenders. Some drivers not even getting it back towards the pit lane. Such is the level of fuel that they have left in the car. And I don't think William Fenton even had enough to do some burnouts that we could witness. Let's go grab a look at the results. Then we'll go, hopefully, talk to some of the drivers and talk to a first-time winner in the Precision Racing League. From the second row, William Fenton rises from third to first and comes out on top, with Jim Felice, Buck Hamilton behind. Is Ryan Osborne the first of the Audis in fourth? The points leader coming into this one with Venkataraju, Graf, Carollo, Steffi, Walden, and Peterson. The rest are your top 10, and the top 10 split by almost 50 full seconds. That was almost an entire lap, and therefore only Brett Thurman, Drew DeWeese, Jared Keane, and Neil Alexander, along with Jason Finch, scored on the lead lap. One lap down for the likes of Colin McKenzie, Ryan Luna, Travis Pruitt, Rodrigo Morales, and Ian Cabana, whose view in virtual reality I'm sure was plenty chaotic. Maybe not as chaotic as Neil Alexander's. 22 positions gained, the biggest gainer of the day. Jordan Walker, Rob Campbell, and David Morse all scored one lap down through 23rd, with Deploy, Ryan, Sortino, Johnson, Ellis, Trickett, and Davis amongst those in the wars. And then you find those really getting mixed up. Berquist, Wright, Jeffries, Saad, Miller, Felice, Mackay, Benatti, and then two that didn't even see the green flag, Sean Mulholland and Kevin Santana. Well, that was a look top to bottom at the race results. We can now head down towards victory lane. We're standing by for the very first time. William Fenton came out on top, and William, congratulations on the victory. What was going through your mind as you closed on Jim and then put the pressure on that saw him make the mistake?
Sorry, I missed that question.
We'll see if we can dial you up again. We're glad we've got a copy with you. Congratulations on the win. Just talk us through the emotions. You closed on Jim Felice and then put the pressure on him to make a mistake. You clearly were rapid out there in your Ferrari.
Yeah, I put a lot of practice in this week. You guys called me out for my consistency in the last one, so I thought, you know what, I've got to turn it up a little bit. So I put in the effort. It was nice of Jim to yield there on the pass. He made a little mistake. Yeah, it was good to get past him and kick away.
I think you drove him into a slowdown, so that was pressure that I think really ended up building. How did it feel at this combo? I don't think this is necessarily one many had much practice at. How much practice did you have then?
It was tough. First practice session, I thought, you know what, we're in trouble here. So I put in a lot of effort, a lot of hours to find a comfortable little groove, and that's what it's all about, isn't it? Practice.
Well, first win on the season now on the board, moving over to next week with a championship situated, I think, right on an edge. How are you feeling going over to Suzuka?
It'll be more practice, that's for sure. Yeah, I had the first couple of rounds I did no good, so it's a long road ahead. As long as I can stay up the top, I think I can get into that championship fight.
Hey, never say never, still a long way to go. Congratulations, William, on the win, and we'll see you from Suzuka 7 days from now.
Thanks, guys.
William Fenton says, we called him out for the consistency. Boy, did he bring some consistency today, but he passed Jim Felice for the win. Jim standing by with Dylan Coyle.
Yeah, Jim, you know, I'm sure it's a little bit disappointing to go from the pole and finish in P2, but other than that one small mistake coming through the final chicane, you got to be happy with, recollecting yourself and finishing with the second best position.
Yeah, maybe not where, I wanted to finish starting from pole, but happy to be back up on the podium again, and, hats off to Fenton. He was flying in that Ferrari, and I just couldn't stay with him. So, ultimately just decided to bring it home safe in second. The walls are close here, and it feels like a street circuit. So, second place isn't bad at the end of the day, and pretty happy with the result.
Of course, you're one of the few drivers throughout the first few rounds of this series to finish in the top 5 in 3 races. You're doing it while also missing one of the races. So you feel like once everything is kind of factored in, drop weeks and all that at the end, you could potentially be sitting right up at the top of the standings?
Yeah, I mean it's a long season, but you know, certainly some good results here to start. We had a wild ice storm up here in the Pacific Northwest last week, so missed that race. And you know, once you factor in the drop weeks and everything else, we'll see what happens.
All right, Jim. Well, hey, congratulations on P2, and we look forward to seeing what you can do at Suzuka next week.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right, Jim Feliz finishing second in this one with SRT Green. Arjuna, send it back over.
I think we've got Buck Hamilton lined up now. Buck, it was close at the end between you and Isaiah Osborne, but held on to that podium position. How are you feeling right now? I'm sure the adrenaline coursing through your veins.
Man, that is the 100% spot on. That was a stressful race and sweating bullets. Yeah, and the race between me and Isaiah was great. You know, took the pit stop and came out in front of him, and then it took everything I had to hold him back. So, yeah, what a wonderful race, and even more special that it's here at my home track.
Oh, wonderful. Talk to me then as well about the start, because it was plenty chaotic. What was your view of all of it?
Ooh. Yeah, it was just doing my best to stay clean, and then the cold tires, and then the tires started wearing out real quick. So, I mean, my own vehicle had my hands full, and just trying not to hit anybody else.
Over to Suzuka next week. Are you feeling confident about going there, especially now with the momentum that a podium can give you?
Oh yeah, well, hopefully great momentum, but I got a great team, the SGE guys, Felix and Waldo, and all the support from my family, so hopefully I'll get some time to practice a little more. But yeah, definitely going to have to hop back on Suzuka. I can't remember the last time I was there, so we're going to have to knock the rust off.
Long trip over, virtually at least, but we'll see you in 7 days' time. Congratulations, Buck. Enjoy this one.
Hey, thank you very much.
Always great to be able to chat to some of these drivers, chat with all of the podium here in the GT3 Fix Series, and now we can look forward, as we talked about with some of those drivers, well, maybe not to a trip to the Ferris wheel for us, Dylan, but at least to the virtual Suzuka for the drivers.
Hey, I don't want to hear it. You are about to have a trip to a real Ferris wheel.
I'm going to have to go, aren't I?
You are. So, man, I didn't go on the Daytona Ferris wheel when I had the chance, and I should have.
You didn't?
But I didn't. I am terrified of Ferris wheels.
Are you really?
Hey, man, don't give me that.
No judgment here. It's just I find it interesting what people are scared of. Do you know what I'm terrified of?
I would love to hear.
The ocean. Oh, it scares the bejesus out of me.
I don't know how I was basically like a fish as a kid going into the ocean, because now that I think about it, there are way too many things I can't see, and I don't feel comfortable with that.
Yeah, no, don't send me anywhere near open ocean, please. I'm comfortable without waves and all of that stuff. Anyway, we'll focus on the schedule just a little bit, because like we said, Suzuka and then Mugello for the first time in Precision Racing League GT3 Series running. We'll run ourselves over to that undulating track with plenty of blind elevation, then Road Atlanta Okayama, which is going to be an interesting one to set up a championship showdown at Mount Panorama.
Man, I really like this schedule, and honestly, I really like what the PRL has done across the board with the Season 1 2024 schedules and all of its series. This is an interesting one. There's a lot of differences, and I love that. I really, really love that. This run, right, that we're going to have after the Roval, the final 5 races of the season, are just so different from each other. I know Mugello is going to be so much fun to see, but ending it at Mount Panorama, are you kidding me? That's awesome.
We just had to line things up, and of course, if you're new to the Precision Racing League, you're allowed 1 drop round in the first 8, so you're allowed to miss a race, have a bad race. As long as you're not disqualified, it doesn't have to count to the record book. Final round does. No matter what happens, it counts, and if you're in a championship fight, you better hope that you're not relying on that to bring you into the championship hunt. But that's all to come. We focus our attention back on the Charlotte Motor Speedway, but this time 5 more minutes thrown onto the clock. Drivers allowed open setups. Well, it's the Precision Racing League GT3 Sprint Series, the logical step up for drivers after they get comfortable in the Fix Series. And well, last year, we saw some of the most competitive campaigns that we've ever seen. This year has been no different in terms of the quality of field at the top, albeit with a slightly smaller field, and therefore maybe a little less drama. Same schedule for us to talk about, so we're not going to linger too long on on it. Instead, we'll flick on over to take a look at the championship standings, because that's where things are looking quite interesting. It's just 5 at the front between Dalton Zavadil and Vincent Trepanier. Chris Beats then makes it another SimCity Racing machine inside of the top 3 before the Seabao Racing pair of Jimmy Libra and Fernando Yaquez round out the top 5. Simon Terrio, Martin Chris, Tabone, Acosta, Mendoza. Rest of the top 10 as they stand right now. But realistically, 3 races into the season, I have no idea who's really on form, Dylan.
Yeah, honestly, this is a wonderful looking points standings. Goodness me, you can't separate some of these drivers. Of course, we're not even into the calculation of the drop week yet, so things are going to change once we get to that halfway point. I love that. I love this standings, this bit here. But you know what I don't love? The fact that the top 9 are all running the same exact car in that Porsche 911 GT3R. Oh, goodness.
It's funny that iRacing Daytona 24, we saw no Porsches, but it's very popular here in this particular series. SimCity Racing 1 have 2 drivers in the top 3. Logically, they lead in the team standings as well, and by almost 20 full points over Advanced Motorsport. Vincent Trepanier being supported by Simon Terrio. SimCity Racing 2 third, with a big margin then back to Precision Racing Esports Blue. Much like it was in the Fix Series, it's 3 at the top of this team standings trying to run away.
Yeah, and it's, again, it's very similar to what we saw with the standings in the Fixed Series with the teams. So, top 3, kind of separated by just a little bit. Everybody else is in line, falling in line. But SimCity, great name.
They got some great paint schemes as well, although I have a feeling one less of their car is going to be in the field, given that Martin Crisp has just jumped into the RaceSpotTV YouTube chat to let us know that he is out for the rest of the season. And so that's at least one of the drivers inside of the top 10 in a Porsche that we're not going to have to worry about in terms of this qualifying session that is well and truly underway. We've got about 5 minutes left to go on the clock, and as it sits right now, it's Mr. Z, Dalton Zavadil, that has provisional pole, Vincent Trepanier second, and Simon Terrio backing up his Advanced Motorsports teammate has provisional third, before you get down to Chris Beats, Jimmy Lieber, who of course races real-world Porsches, albeit GT4s in previous months, and then Boris Ovando, Brandon Tabone, Jason Allen, Fernando Yaquez, and then Arnaud Genet, head driver steward, of course, as mentioned. You can follow along with live timing and scoring by heading to PRL.RaceSpotTV. Again, 40 minutes of racing, 5 more minutes of that, same amount of qualifying, 20 minutes on the clock.
Yeah, and I think we'll see a little bit of a replay of what we saw in the last race. Maybe a bit more, well, maybe domination once we see the race string out a little bit more, considering the fact that all of these drivers are going to be on different setups. And the one thing I am interested in is, of course, different drivers, even if we're on the same team, might run a little bit a different setup. But for the most part, you know, you'll probably start off with a similar base and then go from there. There's a lot of fast drivers that are not on the same team, which can lead to some interesting gaps. And, well, this is looking like a little bit of a bloodbath compared to what we saw in the fixed setup with the gaps from first on the 15th. But look at that. Number 24 and 87, only 400 separate them, first and second.
Yeah, Dalton Zavadil, of course, has already grabbed a pole position this season. Other pole positions have gone the way of Daniel Krachowski, who's only actually raced once this campaign so far, and also to Chris Beats. So might be a third time this campaign that it's SCR on top, Trepanier, Terrio, and then Beats, all within 0.2 of a second on those front 2 rows. Because this is a open setup series as well, what we do often see is drivers coming out of pit lane, as you're seeing Elliott White doing right now. Elliott White, no time on the board, has had 8 previous attempts. Every other time that he's not been able to set a time, he comes back, gets a fresh set of boots on the car, tops it off on fuel, and then goes out for one more glory run.
Yeah, and you can do that in this series. I mean, it's interesting when you kind of compare real world series and tire limits and only being able to use one set of tires in qualifying sessions. Of course, you see that a lot in IMSA competition, right? You technically can, in some cases, change tires, but you really shouldn't because it wastes the tire set during the race. Here, you know, it's a tire model, right? It's simulated, and at the same time, it doesn't hurt too much. You're not wasting money with more tires in Sim, so it does add a little bit of intrigue and fast times.
A set of tires for the Porsche Carrera Cup North America run you $4,000, so I think we're very glad we don't have to pay those sort of bills. As Abner Acosta, no improvement for him there as he sets up for another lap. Simon Terrio to the line. Did seem like it was trending quite well, but about a tenth of a second off, no improvement for him. Now we'll get no more than 2 attempts. Let's ride around initially with Elliott White in this Audi R8 LMS Evo 2, a little bit more aggressive in terms of aero styling than the first generation car that it replaces. Down to second, rising through the gears, and just look how close to the wall he's getting it.
Yeah, that is quite close with White yet to set a time for him right now, but I don't know, it looked like he got a little bit tight coming out of that corner. This is going to be the challenge area.
Nope.
Told you.
And that's why he hasn't got a lap on the board just yet, unfortunately.
Yeah, and hey, that is the first commentator. Is that a commentator's curse, or is that a?
That's just good. No. That is just good reading of the situation. You got to give yourself credit. Martin Chris, sometimes. Martin Chris says that he has a plantar tear on his braking foot. That sounds A, painful, B, not conducive to sim racing. So, Crispy, rest up, and we'll hope to see you back in force. Maybe not this season, but 2024 Season 2. We know you'll be back up there and towards the front of the field. In the meantime, you'll have to watch as your teammates pull for you, but also we'll have to try and see how we feel about the liveries and see what we can convince you to do. I'm not sure if you know this, Dylan, but Martin Crisp, the wizard behind all of these SimCity racing liveries.
Yeah, wow, I did not know that. That's pretty awesome, actually. I really enjoy those liveries. I was about to say schemes, which
schemes works too. It's
fine. I know. I was actually going through a lesson with one of my buddies who knows nothing about racing. I said it's paint schemes when we're talking about stock cars and ovals and dirt racing and all that stuff. Everywhere else, sports car, open wheel, it's pretty much livery. So, or liveries. See, look at that. I don't even, don't.
Well, I know that real world, like if you talk to the likes of an Andy Blackmore, for example, who does a lot of sports car. Ooh, there's that. I heard a spin. I couldn't quite tell who it was. But he'll call it a wrap because that's what they actually put on the car itself, which I know is not necessarily too wrong. Jimmy Libra did improve, but maybe brushed the wall out of the final corner because the lap time did not count. The margin's so fine here with how much risk you can take. Gary Brown, very much Midtown Gary Brown today, finds himself rolling back down to pit lane. No improvement there for him. So who's left with chances to improve then? Checkered flag officially out for the second of the qualifying sessions here today. Simon Terrio has his teammate starting 1 position in front of him, but can he find his way to the top? He slides his way to the wall. Well, and any chance he had an improvement, gone in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, that's sometimes how it works out in racing, and unfortunate, but hey, it's a 40-minute race, right? There's still time to throw everything you've already worked for away.
Carlos Acono is going to run his way to the checkered. Looks like Vincent Trepanier will do so as well. The 25 does not improve. Does Vincent Trepanier improve? Well, he was in second and 42 thousandths off. He's still in second and 42 thousandths off, so the answer is no.
You should have said the answer is Trepanier.
No, because I'm not Joey Tebben. And I thought that you weren't going to come and replace his puns, Dylan. I'm so disappointed.
Sorry. Hey, I've announced some races with Joey Tebben, and we're both from Philadelphia. So what does that tell you?
Wow. Okay, so it's just a Philadelphia thing, is what you're telling me.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that are just Philly things, and that's why the world loves us.
Oh, it's been a while since I've been back to Pennsylvania, you know?
Well, me too. I'm in North Carolina.
And you're on the right side of the Sheets and Wawa debate, right?
No,
you're not. You're on the wrong side. I remember this.
Are you about to tell me you're going to say Sheets is better?
Team Sheets, baby.
Unbelievable. Why am I in this booth?
Because I went to a university that only had a Sheets.
Okay, that's fair. That is fair. That's true. It's okay. I forgive you. Sheets is down in North Carolina. But nonetheless...
Oh, you actually have a Sheets? Oh, now you're making me jealous.
I know. It's 5 minutes from me and then 5 minutes from my work. Hey, Hey, bring that starting grid back up. We gotta
No,
go through
because
it.
we got plenty of time, as we learnt with the Fixed Series race. So what I'm going to do is actually breathe and tell you that it is Dalton Zavadil that grabs pole position for the second time this season. He'll have Vincent Trepanier alongside 1 and 2 in the championship, 1 and 2 in qualifying as well, and then Simon Terrio backing up his Advanced Motorsports stablemate alongside Chris Beats at SimCity Racing 1 versus Advanced Motorsports at the very front of the field. Boris Ovando in the Precision Racing Esports number 22 will roll alongside Jimmy Lieber for the Seabow Racing Team entry. 7th goes the way of T-Bone. 8th goes the way of, what's the nickname of Jason Allen? Not sure if we've got the nickname from Martin Chris just yet. A Dogger, that's what we have to give him the name. Fernando Yaquez, Abner Acosta round out your top 10 with Arnaud Genet 11th, Miguel Ruiz 12th, and having to watch out given that the head driver stewards alongside don't want to go into his naughty book. David Mendoza joins the Precision Racing Esports outfit alongside Gary Brown with Miguel Angel Fonseca in what is always a fascinating livery, rolling alongside Adrian Kokolas, Kevin Simpson and Jeremy Littleland. 17th and 18th positions with Kwoknin, Thomas Dunn, and then Cameron Keeley and Carlos Ocono, along with Dimitri Sosno, final drivers with times on the board. Elliot White rolls from the very back with no time. We saw him have a few struggles along the way in qualifying. He'll be hoping just to stay out of trouble. We have a few drivers, of course, sharing their webcams. You could ignore Tyler Graff, who's flipping once again as we rejoin. Kwoknin's in VR. Vincent Trepanier's got a big smile on his face. And then if you turn your head, Miguel Fonseca says, not Kranchig here is a win for me. And who even is Charlotte anyway?
I'll be honest, my brain totally missed the fact that did not say crashing. And it says Kranchig.
That was intentional or not? I'm really trying to figure that out.
I don't know, but anyway, it got us to talk. It got us to think about it. Hey, look, they see us on. They see they're on the broadcast. They're waving. They're saying hello.
Is Vincent going to start doing the thing with his tongue? Oh no, he's doing it again. Let's look away.
Oh goodness me! Oh my! Thank you.
Just to be clear, he does that, Dylan, because we noticed that while he was racing, he does do a small little movement with his tongue. And so now whenever he realizes the attention's on him, he's like, let's ham this up as much as we can.
I mean, he made it very obvious that he knew the attention was on him. Man, I wish I got to come back and do this series again. This is fun, Arjuna.
And this is why we love the Zooms as well. You were on Zoom yesterday, weren't you, Dylan? You were racing on RaceSpotTV.
I was kind of upset, actually, with how I finished. Well, it was my first race. Well, first race in a month, and first time I even got back in the sim in 2 weeks. Had my surgery 2 weeks and a day ago.
Okay, racing driver excuses. Got it.
Hey. And it was a really solid race. I had top 10 pace, but I made a mistake. It was like a 65-lap green flag run with a pit stop in between. I slid through my box, spent like 3.5 seconds in there, and ended up around 5 seconds outside the top 10 in 17. So I you know what, was very proud of my race and my effort. Good race pace, not the finish I deserved, but it was a lot of fun and nice to get back
Racing
behind the
driver
wheel.
Excuses. Shaking my...
Hey, what was... I said I slid through the box.
It's a racing driver excuse. Did you give the reason for why you slid through the box?
No, but I didn't give
True, actually. Okay, I'll give you some credit there. Ooh, look at you.
Yeah, that's right. I didn't give an excuse, even though it was too slick and, you know.
There you go.
I still got you.
Right, okay. Chaos on lap 1 before. Please. Dylan, are we going to get through this one safely?
No. Really? I can't believe you think there's even a chance.
Optimism. Got to have it.
It's true. Optimism for sure, but it's very likely the Turtles are going to play a big part. And remember, tires are not warmed up. This is going to be treacherous.
About as treacherous as it can be on these starts as well. Unloading off the banking down in towards that final chicane, and unlike in the real world, we don't get to go straight towards the start-finish line. Dalton Zavadil holds them for a bit, but SimCity Racing get the green flag out, and there we go. We don't even get to the start-finish line. Acosta, Littleton, and I don't even know who else mixed up. Chris Beats, I think, the one that set off the chain reaction.
I mean... Sorry for your optimism. It was misplaced.
I tried.
I like it. It's always good to hope, but unfortunately, everyone except the top 2 seemed to get slowed down somewhat by that mess, that mistake, just kind of kept compounding. I really wish you could restart and start races not through that chicane, and don't even get me started why we're doing that in NASCAR.
Yeah, no, that would be great, but you're all dealing with the same problem at the end of the day.
Right.
And so, unfortunately, it ends in disaster for a second time of asking, and already I get the sense that a couple of drivers done and dusted for the race. Gary Brown, Adrian Kokolas on the flatbed back to pit lane, through the bus stop, flying through the chicane as well, I've got to say. And Dalton Zavadil, Vincent Trepani running away at the front, but it's much tidier this time by, even with the tires coming up to temperature. No one getting hung up to dry on the sausage curbs. At the line, it's going to be Dalton Zavadil, Vincent Trepani, 1 second between them, and then Boris Zavando, Jimmy Libra, 3 seconds adrift from your race leaders.
Yeah, and I mean, that's again because of what happened at the start-finish line is a little bit of a blink right there. It's first and second, separated by 0.6, and of course 0.2 separating a podium spot. Goodness me, just unfortunate. I wish. I'm a little bummed.
I am too. Let's go back and look at the replay though, because I'll be honest in saying couldn't quite figure out if it was the curb or if something else triggered this all off. So there goes your race leader, and then Chris Beats tries to get to the inside of Simon Terrio, and as they all just try and scamper away, track blocker? Well, yes indeed.
Yeah, that's definitely a track blocker, and I kind of looks like it started with a nose that was put in too late. You know, it's hard, right? Because we haven't even gotten to the start-finish line. We haven't gotten to the green flag yet. So there is obviously that excuse of, hey, we're still supposed to be side by side, but it's almost impossible. And at that point, you've got to worry about self-preservation. I cannot believe that Boris did not just completely lose control of that Porsche going over the turtles right there. But it's self-preservation, right? You shouldn't put yourself in bad situations just because you can, and you can't expect everybody else to know where you are.
So Abner Acosta also down to pit lane. So Gary Brown, Adrian Kokolas have company for their misery, but with 5 minutes complete, still not really seeing a big check-up and breakaway at the front. Look at the Concertina, though, in the mid-pack. So behind Jason Allen in the bright purple SimCity Racing entry. David Mendoza switched forces, of course, to Precision Racing Esports. Miguel Fonseca in the always interestingly liveried entry. Miguel Ruiz and then Kevin Simpson directly behind. Because there aren't as many drivers in this field, just 24 as opposed to what was it, 38 that we had in the previous race. Dylan, one thing that I think is going to be better for the drivers is a distinct reduction in the amount of traffic to deal with.
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely going to pose a big difference in this race, which is unfortunately going to leave us a little bit unsatisfied throughout with the lack of traffic. I just hope that battles like these, where you have 3 cars and under a blanket and 4 cars under a California king-size blanket, I like that. I like that we see that right now, but we're only 4 minutes and change into it. I hope by the time that we're kind of seeing that 75% of the race complete, 25% to go, we're still seeing closeness like this throughout the field. Something tells me, though, is that we're not going to see that.
Fingers crossed. That's all we can do, is we can hope and we can pray. On board with Ruiz in this now 5-car tandem, and they're closing on Brandon Tabone, on Arnaud Genet and Fernando Yaquez just up this road as well. There you can see them on the banking around, about to unload off of NASCAR Turn 2 and on the run down in towards that bus stop. You can just see the drivers just starting to separate themselves out. Your race leader now 1.7 seconds clear. He's broken drafting range and leaving Vincent Trepanier behind.
5 minutes in, and already it's a 2-second gap. That was the gap between first and second, with around 3 minutes to go in the fixed GT3 race earlier tonight. So will it ever come down closer than what it is right now? I don't know. I don't think so.
Not unless there's a mistake. which I feel like Dalton Zavadil's been able to get himself into a zone right now where he's pulling away from Vincent Trepanier. That's not just here, right? It's consistency, where William Fenton was saying that we had kind of mentioned it on the broadcast that he hadn't been consistent. We were talking just in one race, I think. With Dalton Zavadil, the fact is, he has 2 top 5s this season, has been able to grab the victory, 2 fastest laps, the pole position. He's consistently up towards the front.
Yeah, you know what? That is a fair point. It's still a motor race after all, right? We have to go motor racing, as we learned in Abu Dhabi a few years ago. So there is still time for mistakes to maybe be made by Zavadil, but I mean, he looks fast. It's a question of, can he stay consistently fast without potentially hurting his chances of keeping it smooth and keeping it green.
And ultimately, in terms of incident limit, this is not necessarily a track where you're too worried about it. Track limits at Daytona probably were a bit more of a consideration, as down the field, Miguel Ruiz still on the back of Miguel Fonseca. Second grouping of cars on their run in towards the final chicane. You see Chris Beats trying to recover. He's got Thomas Dunn behind, Cameron Keelian, and Simon Terrio. As opposed, I think, to what we saw in that Fix Series race, a lot of those contenders to the front that got involved this time around, Dylan, don't seem to have too much damage. Simon Terrio looks like he's got a factory fresh Porsche.
Hey, I guess they make those Porsches pretty tough to race around the Roval. It looks good. We'll see, though, if the performance, 413 Fonseca with that beautiful livery is around and gets it back going. Don't think there was any damage, any contact right there, so we'll get the replay. Remember what I said, problem area. And it's a problem area, Arjuna, as you know, because you're going up the hill, but very quickly it goes down to the right. So the car's unsettled. It's kind of lifted up. There's a lot of air able to get underneath, and you're trying to get as much downforce as possible to kind of get that car planted to turn right. It's very difficult, probably the hardest part of this track to get right, and that's saying something, considering the Heartbird turn exists.
I think part of what we are seeing as well there is that Audi is the one that seems to be going around, right? Like, it's Elliott White, we were watching on board in qualifying right as we got to that corner. He had that little bit of a moment, so I wonder if there is just maybe something to do with the way they've set up the car, as Miguel Fonseca got very close to hitting that wall, and just in the effort to maximize his run through that first sector. 2.2 between the pair of Porsches at the front. It is, by the way, Dylan had called it out, a bit of a Porsche fest. Porsches 1 through 11 right now.
Yeah, sure is worse than 1 through 9 in championship standings, right?
Yeah, I mean, what car would you like with your Porsche, sir?
How about a different flavor of Porsche?
It's funny you say that. I was doing a broadcast earlier today to celebrate the release of the new Assetto Corsa Competizione GT2 pack, where they have one Audi, one Mercedes, one KTM, one Maserati, and then 2 Porsches.
Did that just release?
It's releasing tomorrow.
Okay.
Are you going to go now and drive some GT2 cars?
Yeah, I'll be right back.
Yeah, I've got to say, it looks like a lot of fun.
GT2 is a very interesting. The one thing, and I think Arjuna, you can agree with me on this when it comes to sports car racing. Yeah, I think you will. Is the naming conventions are horrible.
Oh, okay. No, I'm not going to sit here and stand for this.
You're kidding me.
You know why it's called GT2?
Yes.
Why?
It was the GT2.
Yes, and it's the only reason why. And, and for that particular reason, I'm totally fine with it.
Okay, so you're high on nostalgia, which is okay, and I understand, because I would be the same way if I grew up watching, early 2000s sports car racing from the beginning, right? Like,
right. Well, the other reason why I think it actually is fitting is because it's more power and less downforce, which counterintuitively is actually easier to drive slowly, or rather, it is easier to drive slowly, but I feel like they're actually quite difficult to get the most out of because you've got to understand the differences compared to a GT3 car. Now, they are meant to be used as a ladder, right? The amateur drivers go to the GT2s to get a bit more used to these higher speeds because GT4 is a great stepping stone, but it also doesn't have, it's a production car based series at the end of the day, right? They're very close to their road going counterparts. So I like
Except for that one right there.
Except for that one on the road. I like the idea that, you know, we have GT4, then you have GT3, and yes, GT2 sits somewhere in the middle, but being realistic, it's not where many people are actually going to go.
I really want to continue talking about this. I truly do, and I will, but can we just, like, marvel at the fact that it looks like there's a stock car on track right now?
I've been trying to figure out who it is. That's not Jeremy Littleton. It is Gary Brown. Ah, okay, that's how you could tell. The blue and the yellow should have made it obvious.
That's unbelievable.
So the Ferrari was built in a modular way so that you were able to reattach the rear clip in case it needed to be repaired, something that helped it win the 24 Hours of the Nürburgring last year when they had major drama and 2 minutes in and out the car was fixed. I don't think it's meant to run like that. We're getting a great look at the engine right now.
We really are, and, you know, it is made to be modular. You can, as many cars and, you know, chassis are nowadays, you can kind of just place something on, screw on the front wing, all that stuff. Easy to do. You have to come into the pits to do it, which I don't know if Gary Brown 7 laps down has done yet. But
You want to know the worst part? He's already been down on pit lane.
Oh, no. Okay. Well,
So-
I've got questions, and they're not going to be answered.
So I'm not sure if he's got more damage or if they just never fixed the car up entirely. But it's a moot point because it just doesn't look very good right now.
It really doesn't, but can I ask another question before we get back to GT2 and all that?
Okay.
Why does Brown have a Intel and NVIDIA associate sponsor across that rocker right against the kind of the base?
That's a good question, actually. I don't know with some of these liveries. There are some really nice ones. I like the Seabow Racing team with its green stripes. It's a rather classic Porsche look, if we're being honest, in the way that the lines around the front headlights kind of work with the contours of the car. You said you quite like the SimCity Racing cars. I think we tend to agree there. You know, it's hard to tell in the night, but the fact that they at least have different colors for different drivers goes to make it slightly easier for dumb commentators to understand. I also quite like these advanced motorsports colors. I will be totally honest.
That's fair.
Good liveries.
It's really solid. Oh goodness, that does just look beautiful. Purple, turquoise, kind of.
Purple's a good color, you know.
I love purple in sports jerseys, in race cars. It is a favorite of mine. I grew up with a minor league hockey team, the Philadelphia Phantoms, and they were orange, black, and purple, and it is my favorite coloring scheme ever. And the minor league hockey team I announced for was purple and black, so I quite like that color, and it looks too nice. It's a little bit more
Needs to be a bit more dinged up,
gray.
is what you're thinking of.
No, needs a little bit more gray. Not as dinged up as some of these cars are in this race.
Well, hopefully no dings up here as Carlos
Oh!
Ocona down the inside of Cameron Keeley, and they are going to get it sorted on corner exit. Porsche slots back into line just by virtue of the slightly worse run off of the exit. Littleton's going to now go up high and actually get a worse run counterintuitively just to give him a little bit more breathing room in towards the heavy braking zone here. 2 wheels into the grass for the 25. Littleton clips the inside curb, avoids the second curbing though, trying to just be a bit more conservative with the usage of the track on the outside. Stays as is for the time being. This 16th, 17th and 18th positions. And again, remember, smaller field, these drivers not so worried about being lapped by those up front.
Yeah, it's not too worrisome, but it does leave a little bit of entertainment to be desired. I will say, though, I'm happy there's still some close battles on track. Doesn't matter where, for what position, drivers are still going to race the cars in front as hard as they possibly can. Let's go real quick back, Arjuna, to that whole GT2, GT3, GT4 naming convention. I just feel like if you want to bring newcomers into sports car racing, into GT racing, you need to simplify it a bit. And I get the history aspect. I do.
But
I do.
That's a class that's not intended for people to get into sports car racing.
That's okay. That's fair.
That's a class where rich people will spend a lot of money.
Okay, fair. I mean, hey, I can't disagree with you there. There's one worse than GT naming, and it's prototype naming. Okay. LMH, LMDH, hypercar, GTP all means the same thing.
No, they don't, and that's what's actually important.
I know, but that's where the confusion can come.
No, but that's where
who don't know too much.
And again, that is fine because ultimately it's about introducing. How many people come into NASCAR and understand how the playoffs work? Versus how many people need it explained to them.
If I speak, I'm in big trouble.
No, and I think we're shared there. But I think that the reality is to have the rule set such that on one side of the pond and the other, two different cars can be built but can race together. There is never a simple way to do that and to communicate the rule set that you need. Oh, Carlos Ocona with a great run out of the infield, and as they wrap round back towards the bus stop, he's on the outside this time around, and Cameron Keeley can do nothing, gives him the position and swap around for 16th spot. We've still got plenty of fighting, to be fair.
Yeah, bump drafting. How about that? Why not? Why not?
Did you watch the iRacing 24 Hours of Daytona?
No, I did not.
You missed 24 hours of Max Verstappen bump drafting!
Oh! How do you avoid that?
Cameron Keeley around. Jeremy Littleton takes the avoiding action to get through. Oh.
How do you avoid that?
I don't entirely know, to be completely honest.
Well, let's get a replay of it here. In the slipstream, better angle heading into the corner, but just totally cooked it. Too much speed going into that first part of the chicane.
I don't think that was running into the back, though, so I think that was just all by itself, and maybe, again, Audi biting, and it has been known across of motorsport, even in the real world, for being a car that the professional drivers have a tough time taming, despite its success across of all the major GT3 events, Spa, Bathurst, Nordschleife, Daytona, you name it. It's finished at the front, and it's finished multiple times up towards the front. Bolton Davido's looking like he might win for a second time this season because, see that margin back to Vincent Trepigny, 3.5 seconds. I think you were right, Dylan. It's never going to get any smaller than the last time we were talking about them.
Yeah, it's really never going to, which is a shame. And that might be the same right now, too. I mean, almost halfway through this race, and the gap has more than doubled since we last mentioned it. Actually, it's almost exactly doubled. 1.8 to 3.6. So will it continue to grow is the question. Again, though, you're still in that region, that range where if you make a mistake, you could possibly see something, you could possibly see Trepigny come back against Zavidal. You never know.
We saw Jeff Carolla recover by himself, let's not forget, driving through the field. You can work forward and make passes. It's just not easy to do so. And so even for these drivers at the front, they will be aware of just keeping it on the straight and narrow, almost halfway through now, this 40-minute time to fair. Back to 8th position, where Jason Allen's been able to break away slightly, and David Mendoza increasingly feeling the pressure from Miguel Ruiz and Kevin Simpson behind. Now, Kevin Simpson, someone that we've seen drive in the McLaren a whole bunch of times. He's another one that's made the switch over to the Porsche clan.
Yeah, absolutely has made the switch over, and I guess it helps a bit. What do you think about this, Arjuna, with having open setups versus fixed, and one specific car maybe having an advantage for open where you can tinker versus maybe another car having an advantage for fixed? Obviously, in fixed, going into the race tonight, 2nd through 5th in the championship standings, well, the Porsche, and 1st through 9th right now for open. But do you feel like sometimes the differing in fixed versus open leads to one car having an advantage over another?
Yeah, no. whatever GT3 car is fast is usually fast. Miguel Ruiz is pretty fast as well as he passes David Mendoza. See if Kevin Simpson's going to take advantage off of the corner. Mendoza up high in that Precision Racing Esports number 55 and the 606 through as the 55 tries to tuck back in. What I will say is that BOP is BOP. There's usually not too much difference in fixed versus open as to the setups, because iRacing has gotten a lot better with its fixed setups as of late. I will happily say that you could go to most tracks and find iRacing's got you a setup that's at least comfortable to drive, if not maybe the fastest of them all. What you really have to question, though, is how important is BOP really? Because this sprint series, for example, we do have some very, very strong drivers. Dalton Zavadil, Vincent Trepanier, they're 6,000, 7,000 iRating drivers. But then you go down to the fixed series, and those are drivers where the iRatings are all below 2.5, 3,000 iRating. And so maybe at that level, BOP a little less important in terms of the ranking order, whereas here, the drivers all realize that they're able to get the most from the cars, therefore they need to get the car that is the fastest as well.
Yeah, that's true. But also, you know, I know the top 9 coming into tonight, all Porsches. But also it's a mental game, right? Where you start to tinker around a little bit too much, where you're making compromises against the strengths of the car itself. Or maybe you're just kind of getting in this headspace where this car is going to be better because I said it has to be better, instead of maybe looking at a car that betters to more, you know, conforms to your strengths and minimizes your weaknesses as a driver. At the end of the day, though, all the cars for the most part handle a little bit differently. Porsche probably most of all, with where all of that weight and is kind of, you know, centered at. I think you just gotta pick a car, kind of stick with it, and figure out if it works for you. You can't be changing it all the time, though. So it's hard, right? It's the mental game, and it's kind of like, am I going to be better if I choose another car, but then I have to go through all the process of relearning specific quirks about the car?
Well, and that's where as well the fact that iRacing is always changing means that you can never really feel 100% settled, and I feel like that's where the best drivers are the most adaptable. To go back to the iRacing Daytona 24 Hours, Team Redline winning in the Mercedes, but they won the IMSA Esports Global Championship in the Ferrari, which was the main rival they had in the race. So you're adaptable, you drive whatever you can, and you figure it out. And well, along the way, you do complain about BOP. That is just the nature of racing, whether it is real or virtual. 3 letters that strike fear into the heart of many. How much grass are you allowed to take on the run into the final quarter? Because is it not grass? Because they're definitely leaving some tire tracks.
It's not. It's painted.
Then how are they leaving tire tracks?
I'm telling you, do this for me. Whenever we go back through that final chicane, look at the slight color difference between the very edge of the grass area and the actual grass. You'll see it's a little different.
No, that's definitely grass on iRacing, unfortunately. I'm pretty sure. It could just be, of course, that when iRacing scanned it, it was grass, and now there's no longer grass, because that's, of course, a major change that Daytona's been dealing with this year to accommodate the NASCAR stock cars not wanting to flip end over end, and quite rightly so down that back straightaway. The entry into the bus stop chicane has been slightly reprofiled with a lot more tarmac. Here's a move. Simon Terrio pops out to the right-hand side of Chris Beats. 2 drivers trying to work their way back on forward, and 2 drivers that actually tangled to kick off all the chaos at the start.
Yeah, how about that? Kind of just chilling with each other right now. You think they're there's a little bit of extra motivation to get by one another? Okay, maybe not. That's it. You see the grass. You see it's different.
It looks. I'm pretty sure that's just because of how iRacing shaded it. It's all still, I think, grass.
Okay.
And that's
so
why.
you would have put on record that you're upset with iRacing.
Oh no, I'm just saying that when
Gotcha.
iRacing went there, it was probably grass, and now it's no longer grass. If we really want to complain about iRacing, what we should complain about is we don't have enough new cars on iRacing. Can we have more new cars?
Yeah, why can't we get more new cars? Because you know, it's iRacing hasn't come out with a new car
in 2 weeks or something.
Yeah, hey, that was what I was gonna say. Well, I hope hope the SRX car still comes
yeah.
in.
Well, I have no doubt that it will come out. The question is how many people are going to go and drive it now that SRX unfortunately has shutters its doors for 2024. That's going to be an interesting story. Probably not far away, by the way, from pit stops underway. So given that traffic's not really been a main talking point for these drivers, Boris Savando's closed up to Vincent Trepignet. Now, when would you start to think about looking to come down if you are getting stuck behind? I don't think he's losing time just yet, but you'll see they're going quite wide and onto the grass. They're definitely pushing, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely pushing. I don't know if it's such a bad idea if you're in traffic right now, especially, you know, a situation like this where you're still fighting for position P3, but there's no way you're going to catch a P2 as we kind of ride from the rear of Trepignet's point of view.
There's the tongue.
Oh, man, he knows it. You see that left side, that look up left corner? He looks up, he sees. So he's definitely got it on.
I think this is the natural tongue movement that's going on right now.
Natural tongue movement.
Yes, I'm not sure he's like he's a Sean Campbell. Sean Campbell, Dylan, will be racing while also typing in the YouTube chat and listening to the broadcast and responding to our questions.
So I am proud of him for doing that. I do that during cautions. I will bring my phone up, and I sometimes will go on my phone during cautions. But it has not caught me out yet.
Hashtag yet. Miguel Ruiz becomes the first driver inside of your top 10 to come down towards the box. So Genet beats Fonseca done. Those are the first 4 drivers that have made trips to the pit lane, as those out on track continue to start to filter into some of the little bits of traffic. This is that very, very undulating ride back onto the banking where you want to get as close to the inside as you dare, while also sweeping up high and gaining as much momentum through the banking as possible. And look how intelligent they're being in placing the car 2 wheels on the blue line as short a distance as possible.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of exactly what you need to do through the chicane. You're right. It's almost disappointing in the fact that it's so boring and straight line. It's almost just made to catch you out instead of, I think, encouraging good, fun racing. That makes sense?
I think I know what you mean. I'm also
Go on.
I also just kind of wonder when it comes to good, hard, clean racing, how many drivers look at real world motorsport nowadays and pick up their cues from what they see out on the real tracks.
I mean, that's also true. You know, so many drivers do enjoy going in sim to learn tracks, especially at road courses, right? Like, and even, you know, ovals that have a lot more character. So I'll tell you what, sim racing is a great tool for on an oval if it's a track that's got an older surface and a recent scan. So you go back a little bit in time, maybe a year ago, you can race on Auto Club Speedway and kind of feel all the grooves and kind of feel where the cracks are in Michigan nowadays. Kind of get more of an idea of where to go and where not to go, and it helps you. Some drivers like it, and some drivers just will never like to use it. They don't feel like it really helps. I think it always does. It gives you a little bit of mental awareness as we see pit stops. Trepignet, Zavidal both in. Avando's going to stay out.
And so that's the first split that we've had. And what's timing went a little bit haywire there as Boris Avando flicked down, then up, then down, then up on the timing screen. But as Zavidal, Trepignet, Liebert, Jaquez, and Tabone are all in on cue, basically. It does suggest that a little bit of fuel saving from the Precision Racing Esports drivers. Not up on the jacks. You can do fuel and tires at the same time, but we're not stationary for long enough to do tires. Off and away, 9.5 seconds stationary for your race leader, 9 seconds stationary for Vincent Trepignet, who's gained half a second in that pit stop cycle, but now comes out with 2 cars between him and his rival on track.
Not the move, not the best chance. You know, if you have somebody in your ear telling you, hey, here's where you're probably going to end up, here's the pit delta, that's so helpful. You gotta imagine this was the wrong move at this point.
This has not helped him, that is for sure. Dalton Zavidal I think would have maybe had a little bit more trouble if Simon Theriault and Kevin Simpson weren't in between. Even though there is draft being fed, the dirty air impact also quite significant. So here comes Ovando in, nice tidy roll into the box, and now has to find his way into the stall itself, hoping to get through. 9 seconds was that stationary time for Trepigny. Expect him to be even shorter.
Right, yeah. Okay, hello. The longer that you wait, the lower amount of fuel you're going to have to put in the car, because there's less time in the race left. It's just math. And again, we're not great at math when we're broadcasting a race, or when we're not broadcasting a race, but that's easy right there. 8.4 seconds in the box.
And so here comes Trepigny on the bottom of your screen. Boris Ovando comes out in front of Trepigny. I wonder if that was traffic or if it was stop related. Whatever the case is, strategy sees the sequence cycle out. Kevin Simpson still yet to come to pit lane. Boris Ovando net second spot.
Great move. Great bit of racing right there. It's when you're talking about seconds, tenths, everything counts. An extra lap or two helps out with pit in time, or pit box time, I should say, stationary time. And Trepigny being caught in this, this pack of cars is absolutely hurt his chances here. But you know what that means, Arjuna? We're going to get a battle for second, and I'm always okay with that.
It should be fun, hopefully, and given that Simpson in front of them, that 606 will be off to pit lane. They also still do have some traffic with which to fend off, so should see Simpson peel off to the left on the run into the final corner. Indeed, there he goes. So now Cameron Keeley, the Audi in front that they have to work their way through. Boris Ovando does seem to be having a few little blips of his internet here and there. It is going to put a little bit of uncertainty into the mind of the car chasing you down. However, ultimately just hoping that they can all stay clean, and now trying to look to the inside of Keeley through the first of the double rights onto the back straightaway. Here comes the battle though for the likes of Theriault and Chris Beets on their recovery drive, now find their way back into the top 10.
Yeah, back into the top 10. Recovery drive going well. It's a little bit easier to get yourself back into the top 10 when only the top 20 are on the lead lap in this race. How about top 18 on the lead lap in this race? So still, though, to finish first or top 10, you must first finish. I don't think you must 10 finish works in that way, but you get the point.
Yeah, I also think at this point, with 7 minutes to go, with Ovando and Trepigny sorted for second, the fight will be between them. Libra, Tabone, and Yaquez now ensconced in their battle for fourth, and then this train behind Kevin Simpson with Beets, Theriault, Genet, Mendoza, Ruiz. We could still have plenty of fireworks to close things off. An estimated 6 laps to go at the end of this one, with Dalton Zavadil just continuing to lead the way. Here they come, taking a little bit of a shortcut on the run onto the banking once again. And amazed still that after being tangled up on the start, Chris Beets and Simon Theriault had the mental fortitude to not let that get them down, because I remember back in the days when I was driving, Dylan, any incident like that, I'd be on tilt for the rest of the evening, afternoon, whatever it was.
Yes. I would have a little bit of a chip on my shoulder, and I'd also, again, be more willing to just kind of put the elbows out, right? Like, you don't... If you're racing along the guy that you kind of had an issue with at the very beginning of this race, and you're still with them nearing the end, that's going to lead to some, I don't give us at the end of the race, right? Mm-hmm. For sure. So we'll see if there's a little bit more aggression and giving with the last 6 or so laps in this one.
So you've been to Aragon, Daytona, Hockenheim, and now Charlotte. Daytona and Hockenheim bring you to assume that drivers had enough practice, if not too much at Hockenheim compared to Daytona. Aragon and Charlotte a little bit more wild in terms of unknowns, and, well, Suzuka going to be a bit more back to the norm and understanding what drivers have got to do there. Chris Beets did not get a great run through the bus stop. Theriault will close, but not to the point of being able to have a lunge. 5 minutes left on the clock, and I'm not sure if Dalton Zavadil's too worried about those behind. Vincent Trepigny's running out of time, though, to get back up to second.
Yeah, Trepignet, he's still there, right? He's still half a second behind. We're watching on board. Takes that corner, cuts it a little bit. That's okay. That's part of it. Blinking in front, sparks. That's not fun to see, but you can't really compare, right? You blink down a screen, but you can look at the timing and see that he lost another couple tenths through that middle sector. From here, it's almost flat out. Of course, get on the brakes, and you really have to take this as easy as you can. A bit wide, though, for Avando. So, hey, maybe there is still hope for Trepignet.
Still hope, but where can you actually make the pass happen? I've just been watching the lines that Ovando's been taking. If that mistake happens again, Trepignet has to be close enough to pounce, but don't know if he's going to be able to, and he got very close to the wall there.
Maybe not pounce, but bounce for sure.
I know, that was, his right side looks okay, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a flesh wound. It's all good. These Porsches have proven that they can handle quite the beating. In this one, he's so close through braking zone entry points, but you get close on the entry, you kind of lose the potential momentum coming out of it. Here's the big thing, though. Look at the traffic in front. This is really going to help Trepignet to catch up and potentially make a move. There's two cars right in front. Can't quite tell who they are, but they're a lap down at least.
At least, and that's the important thing. They will probably also just pull aside and let them through. That might be Littleton in the 619. Also below, you see the fight with Libra, Tabone, Yaquez. That's fourth position, fighting in and amongst themselves on their run in towards that chicane. Slightly further behind. Oh, there's an issue on the bottom of your screen. That's David Mendoza that's gone around. Miguel Ruiz has taken advantage.
Yeah, couldn't quite see how that happened, but again, going through those problem areas in the middle part of this racetrack in the infield. Catch a replay here. Carrying a lot of speed, and he just got unsettled. That was earlier than normal. Kind of just snapped loose on him, and it broke under braking, so maybe just a little bit too heavy on the brakes with a little bit too much speed. Nonetheless, rejoining the action with Trepignet and Avando. Gap is still stable. It's not anywhere, but it's not secure. It's nowhere close to secure with 2-3 laps to go in this fight. But I mean, Trepignet doing all he can, still losing hundredths here or there. Avando is smooth with it so far.
He's rolling with it, that is for sure, and I think might just have established a bit of a buffer. Here comes your race leader back down towards the final sector of the lap. Dalton Zavadil will reach the line and not see the white flag this time by. It will be the penultimate lap of the race, so 2 more laps still for the drivers behind to try and work their way forward. So don't know if Trepignet is going to be able to take advantage of these closing stages to work forward. Let's keep an eye on Brandon Tabone, SimCity Racing's 222, tucked up behind Porsche Racing driver in the rear, while Jimmy Libre, who goes defensive into that final corner.
Look at all that jumping right over there by the 222 of Tabone. Libre, I mean, a great battle here. Closer than the battle for second, and this is for a podium spot. So a lot of it matters. Or excuse me, this is for fourth, just outside the podium. There's a big difference between Trepignet and Libre. But nonetheless, still fun, good racing action, and 2 laps to go to see it happen.
I wonder if you are going to see the 222 once again just close on the middle and final sector. Seems as though Jimmy Libre may be a little bit better in the first sector of the lap. See the light glaring there as the drivers wind back onto the banking. 40 seconds left on that clock, and it's still 6/10 between Avando and Trepignet for what is second position. Chris Beat seems to have had an issue. He drops down and out of the top 10. His teammate Dalton Zavadil, though, wrapping around to take 1 more lap to go. It'll be a second win this season. All he's got to do is stay out of trouble. He's done that so far, and he'll be hoping that there's no sort of commentator's curse. In the meantime, though, as he comes around to take that white flag, let's go see what happened to his teammate.
Yeah, here's the replay here going around the first part of the inner course, and I was so far so good. Came down the block, and I mean, just kind of, I don't know, it was kind of a lazy incident from all around. Bit of a run, bit of a block, late block right there, but kind of just kept moving through him. I put that more, you got to pass safely, right? But it was fairly late when there was already a car down to the inside. Racing incident? I don't know, Arjuna.
I think I probably err on that side as well. Look how close Trepanier has got, and he might have scraped the wall back onto the banking, but within 2/10 at the sector line, and now hoping that he can have a bit of a lunge, but he is still quite far behind. You see Dalton Zavadil front and center of shot in through the penultimate corner on the lap. The Advanced Motorsports car not even going to have a lunge. Boris Ovando got it done on strategy and will hold on to the very end. But up top at SimCity Racing, that will continue the streak. They have enjoyed the start to 2024. Dalton Zavadil now with 2 pole positions, but more importantly, 2 wins to his name. He comes out on top once again in the Precision Racing League, fending off the advances of Boris Ovando and of Vincent Trepanier. Further behind, wait for Jimmy Libra to just about hold on to 4th position over Brandon Tabone. The Tabone zone unfortunately not working forward in the closing stages, and Jimmy Libra felt the pressure so much, he's instantly Dylan out of the car.
Hey, so often in the last lap, the last corner, last chicane that these drivers will go through. As you see side-by-side action further back coming through that chicane. And just great moves going on all over. Hit wall hits. And is that a car out of fuel? I think so, or maybe a slowdown. Not sure, but so often through that chicane, the car in front is going to take a little bit easier. The car in behind is going to just throw it in there. That's why you sometimes see those 7/10 gaps come down to 2/10 by the start-finish line. But it's pretty much everyone across. I think it is, except for one driver. What a race.
It was out of fuel for Kevin Simpson, by the way. He was stationary for 7.7 seconds, so gambled a little bit on being able to cut out some of the stationary time and may not have paid out dividends the way that he was expecting. Now just waiting for a Kwoknin and that 86 car to finish things up. He squabbles his way over to the line, seemingly almost out of fuel by his own regard as well. The flag stops waving from Barney, and the sea of Porsches led by Dalton Zavadil will be confirmed in our unofficial race results. 3 seconds the margin at the front. Mr. Z able to break away. Ovando in front of Trepanier on strategy, with Libra just holding on to 4th in front of Tabone. Yaquez 6th, Allen 7th, with Terrio, Ruiz, and Genet the rest of your top 10, with 11th down to Simpson's fuel unladen machine. Chris Beats then 12th, David Mendoza, Elliott White, Miguel Fonseca, and Thomas Dunn and Kwoknin all scored on the leading lap. Jeremy Littleton, Cameron Keeley, and Dimitri Sosno make up the rest of the top 20. Use Carlot for Gary Brown, Adrian Kukulis, and Abner Acosta. Carlos Acono down in 21st position. So we can head straight down to victory lane and catch up with Dalton Zavadil, winning for the 2nd time this season. And Dalton, I don't want to say it looked easy out front, but it seems as though you had it all under control.
I would never say it was easy. This track takes a ton of endurance. It's very, very hard on the arms. So I'm really happy that my endurance pulled through, and you're able to keep running just consistent laps after consistent lap after consistent lap, and inevitably come away with the win.
A 2nd win, as I mentioned, on the season as well, should see you continue to sit in a very, very comfortable spot in terms of the championship. How are you feeling now with 4 races done of this 2024 campaign?
Feeling great. First couple of races definitely didn't quite go the way that I had planned, but now that we're 2nd race win in a row, we're really taking that momentum, and we're gonna keep pushing, and just keep getting better and better and better, and that's the way it is.
Push on over to Suzuka. We'll see you there in 7 days' time. Congratulations, Dalton, on yet another victory.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys, and thanks to all the sponsors of SimCity Racing.
And of course, Martin Chris missing in action for the foreseeable future. SimCity Racing still out on top. Let's cycle down, though, to the 2nd step of the podium. Boris Ovando with the strategy call, getting him up into that spot. He's standing by with Dylan Coyle.
Yeah, Boris, great undercut, or I should say overcut move for you. It ended up being the kind of the difference between you and P3. So was that always kind of the move for you? You always wanted to go to the very end, or was it a call you made due to traffic potentially being a factor?
Well, you're right in that there was some traffic. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I just thought I'll just stay out. If Vincent stays out, I'll stay out. And if we both get held up, we both get held up. And I noticed that I could extend a lap if I do a little bit of fuel saving behind Vincent. I was able to do it, and luckily I had just enough. I was worried I was going to make the pit box and it sputtered a little bit, but I made it and luckily got the position. I was able to hold him off.
Of course, not necessarily the most luck earlier in this season, but starting to kind of right the ship. Talk about the next 5 races, what your hopes are in the second half once it gets going.
Well, one thing I've decided is I'm going to do more races because I'm just not consistent enough when it comes to the race. It's just because I'm just not doing enough races. So got to do that, and hopefully the results will come after.
All right, Boris. Hey, congratulations on P2. Best of luck next week at Suzuka.
Appreciate it, guys. Take care.
Arjuna, that, of course, is Boris. And Vincent Trepanier, I mean, P3 for him. Curious to hear what he thinks about that move that put him back in traffic.
Yes, but unfortunately the bus driver not going to be standing by with us, so instead we will talk again about next week, January the 30th. We head over to the land of the rising sun. Tight and twisty is Suzuka, but in a very different way than the Charlotte Motor Speedway's Roval configuration. Why do I feel like, Dylan, we're still going to be in for a similar amount of chaos?
I mean, because 130R exists, bud. And the S's exist. And every other corner that makes Suzuka exists. It's one of the most legendary racetracks in the world for a reason, but at the same time, it's not for the faint of heart. It's so exhilarating to just put a lap down here. Maybe the racing is not going to hold up. I hope it does. It's spectacular to watch.
It should be a lot of fun, and of course it will see us reach the official halfway mark of this campaign. Second half of the season sees us make our way over to the likes of Mugello, first time of course in PRL history in these GT3 machines, and then over on towards Road Atlanta, Okayama, and we've already talked about how much fun a championship showdown is going to be at Mount Panorama.
Yeah, Mount Panorama is going to be an amazing championship finale. For any series, it would be quite amazing. Maybe I'll talk to my new buddy Shane Van Gisbergen and ask him what he thinks about Mount Panorama.
He's had his fair share of racing, not just in supercars there, but GT3 machines as well. It is one of the world's best tracks, especially for the level of challenge that it brings to the drivers. Although having said that, the Charlotte Motor Speedway definitely did challenge the drivers in new and unique ways. I'm sure that some are glad to see the other side of it, but 2 drivers leaving as winners, William Fenton along with Dalton Zavadil, maybe we'll be hoping to be back sooner rather than later. We'll be back in 7 days' time here on RaceSpotTV for more PRL GT3 action, but for now it's time to say goodbye. For Dylan Coyle alongside myself, Arjuna Kankipati, we thank you for your company and we look forward to heading off to start the second half of the season 7 days from today.